This is the level of self-understanding that we are called to live out of. This is the salvation that Jesus calls us into, because now we're showing up in life as empowered beings, not just in theory, but in actual experience. And understanding your needs is vital. You are wired by God to need to feel loved. And when that need is not met, we will do crazy things to try to meet the need, or we will become hardened and calloused. A lot of women are burnt out or on the verge of a breakdown. In that space, you're like, I don't have time to be still. Honey, stillness is the answer. We're called to be open-hearted people. And a lot of people are closing their hearts in the name of guarding their hearts. Or putting walls up and calling it boundaries. This constant posture of fighting. We're like living on a battlefield. You can't build a beautiful life on a battlefield. And so stillness is an active posture of rest. Your needs were never validated, but you were really told what you needed to do and what you needed to not do and who you needed to be. We start to conform ourselves into these expectations of meeting externally driven needs. Boundaries have way more to do with how you take care of you than what you expect from others. Girl, you are believing the lie that you are in control of your life. And that lie is going to deplete you, destroy you, kill you, ruin your life. Jesus himself said that if you try to grasp onto your life, you will lose it. But if you lose your life for his sake, only then can you find it. Hello.
Hi.
I always copy you guys. I literally do. I just copy I hear whatever you or Bethany do.
Yeah.
Hi. Welcome,
Hey.
welcome. How are you?
I'm doing well. Currently a little bit tired, but yeah,
Yeah. You got a Pilates workout in?
I did. Yeah. So my body's really, really sore. We focused on core, so
Or
I can't even laugh or sneeze without it just aching. But it was so good.
good. Good, good, good. Good for you. Well, Beth was supposed to be here today, and she's got some family stuff going on. She actually won't be with us for the next 3 recordings because we're recording 3 episodes this week.
Yeah.
And you guys were gonna be splitting this series up equally, but I think you and I are gonna be shouldering the brunt of it for the next couple of weeks. So
Yeah.
we wish Beth the best, and I know she's in my heart and in my prayers. I'm sure she will be in yours as well now that you know what's going on. And for a
Mhm.
friend who's listening, you probably hear this and maybe she'll already be back by then. But yeah, just know that it's gonna be Mariah and I for the next few weeks.
Gonna have fun.
We might see, I just copied you.
I was waiting for it.
I'm such a copycat. Um, yeah, so but I'm really excited about the next 4 weeks because we have a really fun series planned for you. I know from my past experience, I remember in 2019, I worked at a salon and spa, and I remember noticing this trend as the holiday season came. And I would ask the women coming in for their spa treatments, their manicures, pedicures, facials, hair, all the things. Like,
Mhm.
and that's like the time of year where women get all this stuff done because everybody wants to look their best for the holidays, right? So it was like a very busy time of year. And I would ask all these women, hundreds and hundreds of women, how are you feeling about the holidays? And I would say 90 to 95% of women would respond with something along the lines of, I just can't wait till it's over.
Oh.
I know. Meanwhile, the Lord was doing a work in my heart because the holidays were quite painful for me as well up until
Mhm.
2019 because I went through my second divorce in 2015. So for 4 years, Christmas was a reminder of how alone I was and how things had not worked out for me. And
Mhm.
it was just not a joyful time of year for me. But while I was working at the salon and spa and hearing all these women share about how, like, all the reasons why they just couldn't wait for the holidays to be over, the Lord started to convict me about my heart posture through the holidays, and he started to do a work in me during the holidays, and I can honestly say that year, 2019, I made a decision that I was gonna start to learn to love the holiday season and be really present and learn how to be content in it, and I remember that year I made candles for all of my friends and family as a Christmas present. I'm a maker. I love making gifts for people. I've already made my Christmas gifts for my people. You're expect something from me.
Uh,
So, I love just creating things that people can use and that will bless their lives and that they'll think of me. It's a little bit selfish too. They'll think of me when they're using that. So I made candles for everyone that year, and I just remember, like, being really present and, like, I set up my Christmas decorations. I think that's the year, like, I started collecting, like, one little Christmas decoration at a time and just creating more of, like, a this is what I do for my Christmas time. And then the other thing is my niece does, like, 1 year with her dad, 1 year with her mom, my sister. So on
yeah.
the years that she's with us, we obviously do Christmas together, but on the years that she's with her dad, we do Christmas on a completely different day. So I would literally be completely alone on Christmas and Christmas Eve sometimes. And you don't wanna be alone on Christmas or Christmas Eve, but I learned to just I was with Jesus and it was okay, and, I would do my own little thing. So there were a lot of lessons I learned since 2019 on how to really be present and full of joy and peace and contentment in the holidays, even though the holidays are not quite what I would have chosen for myself to look like at this point in my life. And I just feel like too many women suffer with dread around the holidays, with discontentment around the holidays, with stress, and they just want to push through, power through, and get through the holidays. And so when I was praying about podcast, I just felt like, you know what? Let's do a little series and let's help women enjoy the holidays this year. Let's help women be more present throughout the holidays this year. Let's confront some of these distorted thinking patterns that are robbing us of joy and contentment and fulfillment and connection and all of the things, all of the beauty that this season can hold for us. And let's help women shift their perspective and maybe have even a little bit of heart healing. So, today's going to be part one of a four-part series. Buckle up because we have a lot of information we're going to get through. And it's we're going to cover three different focuses, three different keys, three different mindfulness practices in every episode that you can just start building upon in your weekly rhythm. And hopefully, by the time we get to Christmas and New Year's, you're feeling lighter and brighter. And we just helped you bring in some holiday cheer for yourself.
Yay, that's so exciting. I'm hoping to be inspired as well. I'm sure I will.
Yes, I love that. I love that you always come and you're just like, "Okay, there's something in this for me too." Because I feel the same way. I'm like, "Okay, what do I need to be reminded of?" We were
Yeah.
just talking about how I've been feeling really tired, and that urge to just hibernate has been kicking in really strong for me. I normally have no problem getting out of bed in the morning, but I have been lingering in bed in the morning. And it's
Uh,
not because mentally or emotionally or spiritually I'm not well. It's just like my primal physical instincts are kicking in. And it's like, okay, it's wintertime. It's time to hibernate. It's time to sleep more. It's
mhm.
time to lounge around more. I
Yeah.
told Mariah I baked bread and made soup yesterday. It's time to eat more comforting foods. And just thinking back on the last 8 months of my life and just how much I've been working, and now we're coming into the winter season, and my body is
Mm,
literally saying, "Okay, it's time to slow down. It's time to do less. It's time to rest more," but still feeling like I have so much I have to get done, and I'm in this tension right now, and so I've I'm gonna get a lot out of this too, and it's gonna help hold me accountable to actually living out these truths that I know to be true, but that sometimes we can just poo-poo away because it
mm,
feels a little inconvenient, even though it only enhances our life quality if we actually apply them, you know?
yeah, right.
So, do you want a, dating app update? Because I feel like we mentioned it that one time for our, like,
Yeah.
listening friend, and then, like, last week, we had Claire on here, which you're in for such a treat because my dear friend Claire, she just actually completed her Living Beautifully one-on-one journey with me a few weeks ago, and we brought her on last week to record an episode, and she shares her story, and it's so beautiful and moving and inspirational. And we're gonna share that with you guys in the new year, but Claire's actually gonna be stepping in for a surprise appearance during the series because Bethany won't be with us, and I wanted to alleviate some of the load on Mariah. So Claire's going to get to step in. So you'll get a little sneak peek at Claire and who she is, and then you'll get more of her story in the new year. But I feel like we haven't we haven't talked at all about the dating app journey since I dropped that bomb on both of you guys a few weeks
Right.
ago. I don't even know how
Yeah.
many weeks ago it's been, but it's been a few weeks now.
Yeah. So how's it going? What's the updates?
So I have this match that has caught me by surprise. I'm going to be honest, I really didn't expect anything, and I still don't expect anything from this 1 month dating app adventure, right?
Mhm.
But there was a guy that I was matched with a little over a week ago, and we had this, like, instant connection, makes me laugh. He's really goofy and playful and funny and very engaging. We're writing these long novels back and forth to each other and just seems like a really kind-hearted and genuine, gentle soul. I'm having a hard time trusting it
Mm.
because I've never actually met a guy like this before.
That's so crazy to think about. Wow.
So we ended up having a phone call the other night, and we were, like, on the phone for 4 hours. So I told him about an hour into the phone call because I could feel myself like I'm a pretty open-hearted, present person, and I could feel this this tension, this resistance within my being of wanting to recoil from him, and I was like, "What is that? That's not my normal state of being. What's going on inside of me?" So as I kept observing through the conversation, I realized there's a lot of things about this guy that remind me of my exes.
Oh, man.
They're not necessarily character flaws or anything
Yeah.
like that.
Right.
So I just told him straight up because I'm like, "Listen, I have nothing to lose. My goal is not to get married. My goal is to be honest and honorable," right? So I'm like,
Mhm.
"I need to be honest with you. I feel like there are a lot of things about you that feel very familiar to all 4 of my exes, and it's kind of making me wanna recoil from you."
Oh,
And
wow.
and he goes, "Oh," almost like he got punched in the gut, right? He's like, "Oh." And then he's quiet for a moment, which I'm quiet. I'm not quiet doesn't make me uncomfortable. I'm kinda like, "Let's wait and see what how he responds." So, he's like, oh, no." And then he's quiet for a moment, and then he goes, "Well, I guess I'm just gonna have to keep being myself," which I was just like,
Wow.
"What?" Like, he didn't, like, get defensive, and then he's quiet for another minute, and then he goes, "I mean, were there any good qualities that your exes had?" And then I just start laughing out loud because, oh my gosh, he's so hilarious. I'm like, "Yes, there were so many good qualities that my exes had," you know? So there've just been, like, these moments where the way he shows up is very surprising. I'm like, "What? Like, that's how you chose to show up?" Okay, last story, and then we'll move on to the good juicy stuff, 'kay? So then now we're at this point where every now and then he'll send me a little glimpse into his life of what he's doing, right? So, for example, on Saturday, he was watching football. Also, we have nothing in common. We have zip in common. But I know a marriage that is beautiful. And when they married, they had zip in common too. So I'm like, okay, maybe that is not as important
Yeah.
as we put pressure on. I'm just trying to be really open. And so he sends me a picture of the football screen. Well, I was doing my henna brows. So I have henna painted onto my brows and it dries black, right? So I have like, not a speck of makeup on. My hair's in a big old messy bun and I have like, black. villain
Yeah.
brows, right? I'm like, "I got nothing to lose." Literally, I have nothing to lose. And I sent it to him. Let's see what happens. Let's see if I scare this guy away. And his response is, "Whoa, you look like a villain, and I kinda like it." And I'm just like, "Oh my gosh." He's just so surprising. He just keeps surprising me. Even okay, this is for real, the last thing, and then we'll stop.
Okay.
But
It's all good.
but I started feeling overwhelmed by the whole thing because listen, I don't have anybody that I talk to every single day, and he's messaging me throughout the day every day, and I'm just like, "Okay, this is feeling like a lot. I need room to breathe. I
Yeah.
don't even know how I really feel about this situation." And I need time to be with myself, and I need time to process. So Sunday, I could feel myself starting to feel a little bit like, "Ugh, I didn't wanna hear from him." Ugh, and I was like, "What is this?" Because I knew it was a me thing, it's not a him thing. And I think I just need time. This is gonna connect into what we talk about today, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that, right? I'm like
Awesome.
having this internal response to this person that I has been nothing but kind, nothing but a gentleman, nothing but thoughtful, nothing but all the good things so far. Why am I having this irritative response to him? And so as I asked myself that question, what's going on with you? It's not, oh, well, I mustn't like him because I'm having this
Mm.
response, right? This guy is great. And I was like, I think I just need a little space. But how do you tell somebody that you just have met? And so I just prayed about it because I didn't know. I don't know how to tell him this. So let me just take it to the Lord first. So I was like, Lord, I could really use a day off. And I need to not hear from him for a day, catch my bearings and see how I'm feeling about all of this without it being in my day. So this was Sunday night. Monday morning, I don't get a good morning text from him. I'm like, okay, thank God. It's only been a little over a week. It's a lot, I need to pace myself here. And then I don't hear from him all day. And I'm like, oh, thank God. So I get to just be present. I'm cooking in the kitchen. I'm really enjoying not hearing from this guy. And I'm like, okay, I'm getting what I asked the Lord for. I'm getting a little bit of a break. I'm getting a little bit of a pause. But what I noticed was as the day was going on, I started thinking about him. I was like, huh, I wonder why I haven't heard from him
Yeah.
today.
Right.
Like, and I had this feeling inside. I almost feel like he knows I needed space. And I'm like, I think he's either taking space for himself or he's giving me space. I don't know which one it is, but I feel like he's giving me space because he's been very interested. He is like a wear his heart on his sleeve kind of guy. He's not a gamey guy, not trying to be mysterious about things. Like he's been very like, interested. So I'm like, I don't think that would just turn off. I think he feels for me that I'm a little bit skittish, and so he's giving me some space. By the end of the night, probably around 8 o'clock, I'm like, maybe I'll reach out to him, right? Which is different. And then I look at my phone and sure enough, boom, I have a text message from him.
Oh,
And I was happy to hear from him. And I was like, oh, look at that. So then we started messaging each other again. And so I told him, I wasn't sure if you were taking space or giving me space today, but I sure was happy to hear from you. And he goes, oh no, I literally thought about you so much all day. He's like, I just don't want to overwhelm you. So I was just trying to give you space, but he's like, "I just couldn't resist the urge. I had to give into it in the end. I had to reach out to you."
oh my gosh, look at the Lord at work. That's so crazy.
Yeah. So there's still so much that we don't know about each other, right? This could
Yeah.
literally be nothing more than just a little journey, not the
Yeah.
whole, like, thing, but it's been interesting. It's been challenging. There's been a lot that this whole experience has been bringing up for me, but
Mm.
I feel like I'm learning a lot and I'm healing. And I don't regret it at all. No matter what happens, it's been a good experience.
Yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds just like you're learning a lot, like there's new things happening, and so what a refreshing experience. That's so cool. I love
Yeah,
hearing about it.
yeah. Thanks, Mariah. We'll
Yeah.
see. I'm still
Yeah.
not sure. I still don't know. I really don't there's, like, this part of me, this, like, thing, this tug of war going on inside of me. Yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting.
I think it's because I don't trust it.
Oh,
I think
because
it's
of
because it doesn't feel safe because it's so unfamiliar. I even talked to my dad about it. I'm like, "Dad, I don't know what to do." Like, I feel like there's certain qualities in a man that are, like, so manly, like and I'm like, "I don't know that he has these qualities. He's such a gentle being. He's such a gentle soul." I literally was like, "I want a man who's not afraid of a bear. I want a man who's gonna punch a bear in the face," you know? And my dad's like, would you prefer to have a man who's gonna punch a bear in the face but treat you poorly, or would you prefer to have a man who's gonna treat you well and be afraid of a bear?" And I'm like, "Oh, good point, dad."
Yeah, that is true.
I'm like, "Can I just have both?"
Yeah.
So, yeah. So,
Wow.
mystery man, if he ever listens to this episode, which I highly doubt he ever would because he doesn't even know I make podcasts. Yes, you're a great guy. He's a great guy. He's probably one of the sweetest souls in a man that I've ever experienced. And I am enjoying getting to know him, but it feels very unsettling at the same time.
Mm. Wow.
Okay, when
I think
you
that's
met
also
your
good.
husband, you
Uh,
had like a history of bad relationships. Of guys
yeah.
who didn't treat you right at all, and then you
Mhm.
met a sweetheart, like, your husband is a sweetheart. He's a kind soul, he's so gentle, he, like, adores you.
Yes.
Did it take time to get used to that? Because you weren't used to being treated that well by someone?
Honestly, okay, so I think there was a bunch of different things that I had to work through in the beginning. Like when I first got with him, it was a roller coaster, but I think a lot of it was the triggers because everybody else around me, all the relationships I chose were also very triggered people. And, because that's what I had inside me. So I was attracting those kinds of people. And so, yeah, he was very, very patient with me, which is not what I've ever experienced. And I guess I can relate where I doubted compliments. I doubted his patience with me. I doubted a lot of things about how he felt towards me or how he was reacting towards me because that's just not what I've experienced before. To get to the point, yeah. Yes.
Well, just questioning it, like, is this just you and
Mhm.
whatever girl was put in front of you, you would be this way? Are you
Yeah,
just
yeah.
wanting to be in a relationship, and so you're just trying to make this work because I'm still talking with you? Or is there something specific about me that's drawing this out of you?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Enough about the boy, the man, enough about the man. Let's get back to what really matters.
How's it
Let's
relate though? You said it tied in, related.
Oh, yeah, because today we're gonna be talking about stillness, we're gonna be talking about needs, and we're gonna be talking about boundaries. And I know for myself, I needed that. I was feeling overwhelmed by this relationship, and I needed some stillness. I needed a pause. I needed to just be with myself and recognize what I was thinking and what I was feeling around this situation. And then within that, I also needed to identify, like, what am I needing? I recognized that I needed the pause, right? Because I had this like irritation that I kind of wanted to take out towards him. But I also know myself enough. I have enough self awareness to recognize, no, what is this really about? Okay. Irritation is not something that is in your everyday, every week. It's not even in your every month. So if you're feeling irritation, what is that irritation really telling you? What do you need? And what boundaries do you need to set? And we can't always figure out the needs and the boundaries if we're not willing to have that stillness. So I want to start with stillness and then we'll go into needs and then we'll go into boundaries. I want you to think back to before you started your Living Beautifully journey. Okay.
Mhm.
How did you feel about the idea of being still with yourself?
I felt like I was gonna get bored because I was always wanting to do something and stay busy. Also, because I felt like I was wasting time.
Oh,
Performative. I was super performative about it.
yeah. I feel like a lot of women, the majority of women have a lot of resistance around stillness.
Oh,
Why do you think
tons.
that is? I think what you said is really good. Like, I think a lot of women are like, there's just too much to do. I have too much to get done. I
Yeah.
don't have time to be still.
Yeah.
That's a luxury I can't afford.
Mhm.
So there's that element of it. But do you think that there could be anything else at play that is more at their conscious forefront of, oh, it's boring, or, oh, I don't have time for this, or it's not a priority because I have too many things to take care of? But do you think there might be some deeper underlying causes that prevent women from choosing stillness?
Yeah, I think that maybe stillness doesn't feel safe for them. I would say for me, I I didn't wanna sit alone with myself. It felt like boredom, but really I was just afraid of just being still and, being alone and finding what was inside. I feel like a lot of times circumstances put things in front of people or, women to that they have to get done. So therefore they feel like they don't have the option to set boundaries. But in my case, I made stuff for myself to do. I went out of my way to find things to do, start a new school, start a new program, have two jobs at once so much. I did it for myself and then also self-worth. I think that's comes into play too. Oh, I'm not good enough if I don't do all these things with my life. If I don't do something with my life, I'm not gonna be good enough. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, that's good. I think too, like, a lot of women don't a lot of women can justify their busyness,
Mhm.
but if we really start peeling the layers back, a lot of the busyness is just self-imposed because those things that feel so urgent and pressing are really not that urgent. Like, even for example, for the one who's watching and not just listening, like, you see that Mariah has cute little Christmas decorations behind her because Mariah showed up at 100% today, and her 100% is 100%. I showed up at my 100% today, but my 100% is like 80% today, and the goal was that we would all have our little Christmas decorations up behind us today. But the last weekend, I've just been so exhausted that instead of pushing myself to be productive, I waited in the balance and I was like, it's really not going to be the end of the world if I don't have Christmas decorations in the back of this episode. What's more important is that I show up refreshed and rested and present and focused, and if I keep piling up my to-do list when I actually really need some rest time, I'm not gonna show up that way. And so my priority is always how I'm gonna show up, because how I'm gonna show up directly impacts other people. So I think sometimes it's like, oh, I have to get the Christmas tree up and I have to do this and we have all these external goals that we're focused on that we have to do. The laundry has to get done. The dishes in the sink have to get put away. We just pile up this to-do list that keeps us really busy and spinning our wheels, and it keeps us in a perpetual state of stress and anxiety. And then when we show up, we're showing up from that place of deficit. We're showing up to just push through, power through, perform our way through. Um, and there's a disconnection from our heart at that point because the heart is like, you need rest, you need to slow down. And we don't want to listen to it. So we just block it, we silence it, and we just trudge forward and we just get ish done.
Mhm.
What do you think about that?
Yeah. I was thinking about it, and the first thing I thought of was, "Oh, that sounds like all or nothing." For you, for example, you prioritized rest because that's what you needed and didn't put the Christmas tree up, but if you were thinking with all or nothing, you would've probably tried to do all of it and get that Christmas tree up because if I don't, then it is the end of the world, that kind of thing. And then another thing I was thinking was, it sounds as selfish as it doesn't sound, a lot of people get wrapped up into doing things for other people, but then they miss the mark where they get so busy and they don't prioritize what's needed, so then they end up showing up not great for whoever they're doing it for or for their loved ones, and so, really, it doesn't sound selfish, but kinda is selfish because 'cause you're worried so much about what you need to do or, like, all these things that you're just so worried about. I feel like it's a very self-centric kind of state of being.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because a lot of the time, if you really, again, if you peel the layers back, you're doing things for others because of how it's going to come back on you, because of how it makes me feel. It gives you that sense of validation. I'm a good person because I do all these things for other people. Or it gives you that sense of self worth. It's that people pleasing. I'm doing these things because I don't want these people to be upset with me or disappointed with me, right? Caring about what other people think about us, right? I had a lot of that for a really long time in my life. I would have put the Christmas tree up, not because it was a genuine and authentic decision that I was making for myself and how I was managing my energy, but I would have put it up because I didn't want to look bad in front of you. Or I didn't
Mm,
wanna look bad in front of the viewer that Mariah was a good girl and she did what she was supposed to do and I didn't. So even
yeah,
the fact that the Christmas tree's not up for this episode is such an intentional thing, not by our design, but it's coming into the conversation so beautifully because it's a tangible example of ish didn't get done and everybody's still here. The world is still spinning madly on.
right.
Right? But if I really cared about what people thought about me or that they might think which we do, let's be honest, ladies, come on, right? If we're doing things because of how it's because of our image, how we're gonna look, how other people might perceive us, then we really have to question the motives because those are not pure motives. Those are others-centric motives. And it is from a selfish place. It is a self-serving place because we're trying to protect and preserve our image.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. A lot of women will say like they feel guilty or selfish slowing down and doing nothing.
Mhm.
Why? Because that's like kind of the opposite side of the spectrum, right? Like
Yeah.
there's those women that feel like, "No, I have too much to do. I'm busy. I don't have time for it." But then there's also women that are like, "I really want to. Like, I have a longing for this. I wish I could sit down and be with myself or journal or read a book or whatever it is that we do to refill ourselves." But if they do it, they feel guilty or they feel like they're a selfish person.
Mm.
What do you think about that? Can you relate to that in any way, or where do you think that comes from?
I I can relate. I feel like maybe not so much doing stuff for others, but showing up for others. Because before I feel like I had a lot of codependent relationships. And so feeling like I need to show up for this person, even if I know I don't have the capacity for it or I'm not filled myself and I'm not doing well myself, I'm still going to show up for you because that's what a good friend does. And really, I mean, it didn't produce anything. It's just continuing the cycle of the codependent relationship. For me, it all came back to like self-worth. If I don't do this for my friend, or if I don't show up this way, or if I don't show up in general for my friend, and if I choose to prioritize my rest or my needs, then that makes me a selfish person because they need me right now. And that's just it. They need me. So that's my role, is to be there. But yeah, self-worth.
And I think too that what you just said, they need me and therefore I need to be there. If I'm a good friend, I need to be there. There's some all or nothing thinking tied up in that frame of mind as well, because yeah, if my friend needs something, I absolutely am a good friend. I want to be there, but it doesn't mean that I have to be there on their terms.
Mm,
Right? I can be there for you. I can tell you, "Hey, yeah, I'm not available right now, but I can call you tomorrow." Or, "You know what? I can't drop everything I'm doing to run to be with you." Right? I can't turn your crises into my crises, but I can pick up the phone and call you right now. I can be with you in that way. So,
mhm.
I think too, there's just, again, so much all or nothing thinking that we have and learning how to think about things differently. I can still be a good friend and not stop, drop, and run.
Yeah, exactly. No, that makes so much sense.
Yeah. So there's like the checkout where you just kind of check out. Some people think like sitting in front of the TV at the end of the day and just mindlessly watching mind numbing stuff or like mindlessly doom scrolling or whatever is rest. This kind of stuff is not the rest that we're talking about. It's not the stillness that we're talking about. We're talking about the stillness. For example, there's this practice in the Catholic tradition and it's called centering prayer. Do you remember centering prayer from your Living Beautifully journey? It's like probably the very first workbook I ever gave you. And
Mhm.
there were 6 different activations that you did.
Yeah.
There was There was the eye
eye
gazing.
gazing,
Okay. There what you
doodling,
remember, journaling, child's
journaling.
pose, legs up the wall,
Yeah.
doodling, and then there was the centering prayer. There was the meditation. Do you remember that
Yeah.
one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, I remember doing it, so yeah.
And I think I had you do it a lot. It wasn't
Yes.
just that one time because a lot of women that I work with that have very busy, active, ruminating minds, part of the physiological beauty of this practice, this centering prayer practice, is that it rewires your brain to actually be able to be present because you're sitting in stillness. And the goal is not to think about nothing, but the goal is to just stay present. So anytime you catch your mind wandering to the future or to past, right? It can be as simple as a conversation that you had 10 minutes ago or what you're going to cook for dinner, or it could be a painful experience from the past or something you're dreading from the future. But anytime you catch your mind drifting outside of the present moment that you're in, you catch yourself, you release the thought and you ground yourself back into the present moment, whether it's through a sound like birds chirping out of the window, whether it's through a physical sensation of the air blowing on your skin. For me, it's always the breath. The breath is the quickest way to just group back in, ground back into the present moment that I'm in. But every time you're doing that, every time you're catching yourself drifting and you bring yourself back in and you root back into the present moment, you're rewiring your neurology, your neurologic pathways to help you become a more present person. It's such a powerful practice. But
Mhm.
a lot of people, myself included, we don't practice stillness. I didn't practice stillness. I would be lazy. I would do nothing. I would check out. I would numb out, but I wasn't being still and connecting with myself. I
Right.
wasn't asking myself, what's going on? How am I feeling? What have I been thinking about? Like, and it's not to be self absorbed, it's to know thyself, to understand yourself so that you can show up. If I, for example, was just feeling irritated and I took it out on that guy, because I lack the ability to be still and check in with myself and understand what's really going on so I can show up in an honest and authentic, genuine, and loving way, right? Instead of taking out my frustration on somebody, I'm going, oh, I'm feeling frustrated. What is this frustration telling me that I need, right? That's the kind of checking in. That's the kind of knowing yourself that we're talking about. So it's
Right.
very, very important. But I think for me, I broke. I literally broke down and I literally had the capacity to do nothing other than be still. Everything became overly stimulating for me. I just couldn't handle noise. I couldn't handle people. I just hit a breaking point where I was literally forced to be still with myself. And
Yeah.
in that uncomfortable place, with the help of a counselor, I started to learn how to have a proactive type of rest in that of, okay, how am I thinking? What am I thinking? How am I feeling? What do I need? And learning myself in that place of stillness. And so that's how I cultivated an appreciation for stillness. And that's why I still love stillness. Stillness is a part of my everyday. I'm sure you
Mm.
would say the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I have moments where I do just sit and then I'm like, "Oh, like, let's reflect, self-reflect a little bit. What have you been thinking about? How are you actually doing and how are you feeling?" And not just because start to feel anxious, whereas before I would feel all these emotions and then that would force me to then check in, but now I'm, like, checking in before I even get to that point, which now I don't even really feel anxious or live out of that state, but, yeah, it doesn't have to be at a breaking point now.
Yeah. Because a lot of women are burnt out or on the verge of a breakdown.
Mhm,
And in that space, you're like, I don't have time to be still. Honey, stillness is the answer.
mhm,
Stillness is the answer. You cannot afford to not be still. So this holiday season, practically speaking, my challenge for you would be redefine how you view stillness. Stillness is not a luxury. Stillness is a necessity and it's not lazy. It's extremely purposeful. In fact, when you look at God's original design of time and creation, he literally created a Sabbath day of rest in creation's coding, in the cyclical weekly coding of creation, he set one full 24-hour period aside for humans to rest. And then and then when Jesus by the time Jesus gets on the scene, humans had turned the Sabbath into this religious obligation and like heavy loaded, like burdened the people with all of these expectations of what they could and could not do on the Sabbath. And Jesus comes and he breaks that religious obligation off of the Sabbath and he literally says, man was not created for the Sabbath, but the Sabbath was created for man. So the Sabbath, Mariah can attest to this for me. No matter how much I have on my to do list and no matter how heavy my workload demands it, I always take a Sabbath. I've not missed one Sabbath probably as long as Mariah has known me because I've been practicing Sabbath for the last 10 years. Even if it
Yep.
means I have to do like a 19-hour day, which I've done once. I've put in one time a 19-hour day. I was like, I'm going to get all of this stuff done. And that's the exception. That's like never happens, but I will put in a big, big, big day if I need to so that I can give myself one day, one 24-hour period of rest. No commitments, I don't need to be productive. I don't need to do laundry. I don't need to run errands. I don't need to meal prep. I don't need to meet with anybody. It's literally my day to be with me and refill myself. Now, if I want to cook, I'll cook. If I want to meal, if that feels like a creative outlet that's refreshing for me, I'll do it. But rest is mandatory. It's part of our God-given design is we can't thrive apart from rest and learning how to do active rest, which is being still, refilling ourselves, understanding, okay, what's been troubling my heart? What are the worries on my mind? And then like bringing those before the Lord. So very, very important. I would encourage you in the next month to really start practicing active rest and reframe how you look at stillness, that it is purposeful, not lazy. And then the other thing is maybe you're like, I can't just take one day off of my life. Maybe you're not there yet. That's okay. We just start where we're at and we set a goal and we make little micro shifts along the way. So, what I would say for you is if you're like a hit the ground running from the moment you wake up till the moment you go to bed and then wake up the next morning and repeat, and you've been going at that pace for a year now or for a decade now, I would encourage you to start creating pockets of peace within your day. Even if it's just giving yourself 5 minutes. Start with 5 minutes a day if that's all that you can do. And it's probably going to be really uncomfortable and you're probably going to have a lot of resistance around it because the other thing to think about is it's not just the spirit and it's not just the soul, it's your body. And if you've been hitting the floor running and go, 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 go from the moment you wake up till the moment you go to bed, your nervous system is probably in overdrive. And so your physical being has a really hard time being still. And you have to learn how to shift out of the sympathetic and get back into that parasympathetic place, which is that state of rest and digest. And so, breath work helps a lot with that. I think we should do a whole episode on breathing in the new year because breath work is something that the new age communities talk so much about, but it's not witchcrafty. It's not new agey. God gave us breath. Breath is super powerful. There's so much science to back this up. They literally train first responders in breath work to help keep them in a state of parasympathetic when they're in a state of crises. So I would just say create pockets of peace. Set 5 minutes aside a day if that's all that you can do, maybe 10, maybe 20, and just sit. Turn off the phone or put the phone on do not disturb, turn off the noise, find yourself in a comfortable, uninterrupted place. Maybe it's driving your car down the street for 10 minutes and telling your husband, I need a timeout. And you just drive down the street away from your husband and your kids who are constantly needing of you and just go sit in your car and just be with yourself. And when you start worrying about all the other things, just let it go and come back into the moment. And maybe put a hand on your heart and a hand on your head just for that like tangible grounding reminder of all I have is here and now. And I'm just with myself for 10 minutes. And maybe you need a good cry, or maybe you need to vent out some frustrations or whatever it is that you need. Give yourself that 10-minute space, that 5-minute space. hold space for yourself, to be with yourself in stillness and see what comes up. Even better, if you have a relationship with the Lord, posture yourself towards the Holy Spirit in that space, because the Holy Spirit is a comforter and the Holy Spirit is a counselor and the Holy Spirit is a teacher. And so when I'm in stillness, I would say that learning how to live the abiding life, which is a conversation for another day, happened in my practice of stillness. When I would practice the presence of God in stillness, that is what helped me to be able to live in the presence of God, even in movement, even when I'm with others. So, stillness is imperative. Definitely stop making excuses. You need this. Practice 5 to 10 minutes a day of stillness this month. And I promise you, you will be amazed at its compounding effect in your life. Any last thoughts you want to share about stillness?
Nope.
No? Okay. Needs. I love talking about needs. Needs is one of my favorite things to talk about because we as women are so good at neglecting ourselves.
Yeah. How do we take care of our needs? What are some of our needs? Well, I mean, everybody has individual needs, right? But on a basic, like, human level too.
Right. Yeah. Well, before we go into that, I just want to say this one thing because I was praying this morning, this was what was really highlighted to me about women and our needs. A lot of us as little girls, and again, it's not because we had villains as parents. We had probably most of us had wonderful parents who were literally doing the best that they knew how, right? So we're very gracious and loving and honoring to our parents. But the fact is that was a different generation and they didn't know what we know now. So they had probably never been asked, "What do you need?" So they didn't
Mhm.
know to ask that, right?
Mm.
But how many of us as little girls were asked, "You're throwing a fit," and your parent goes, "Mariah, what do you need right now?"
Yeah.
Right? It's, "Mariah, you need to stop it. We were told what we needed. We were
Yeah.
told what we needed. We were not asked what we needed." And so in that, a lot of us learned that we're not allowed to have needs. And we
Mm.
need to figure out what the expectations are of others so that we can meet those external needs. Even think about diet culture. I mean, I wasn't planning on going here, but think about diet culture. Diet culture is something outside of ourselves telling us what we need. You need to eat X amount of protein. You need to drink X amount of water. You need to interfast for this amount of time. This is something outside of you telling you the rules that you need to follow because apparently that's what you need instead of what God's original design would have been, which is that more intuitive model of knowing yourself and understanding, oof, I'm needing a little bit more protein this week. Or like Mariah and I were talking about, she's like, don't you eat breakfast every day? I'm like, no, I don't need breakfast every single day. I don't wake up hungry every single day. And some people might say that's not healthy, but there are times of the month, and for me, I've learned it cyclically with my hormones. There are times of the month where my appetite increases and I need more fuel. And there are times of the month where I naturally do a little bit of intermittent fasting because I just don't need as much. I'm not as hungry. And so maybe certain time, like in my luteal phase or in my early menstruation phase, I'll wake up and I am hungry and I will eat breakfast. But now I'm in my follicular phase and I wake up and I'm maybe not hungry for the first couple of hours, right? And then by the time I get to ovulation, maybe I'm not even hungry until like 1 or 2 in the afternoon. And so I'm learning. This is still something I'm learning in my own self because like my body is my weakest link still. I'm still learning that part of myself, how to master it. But I'm learning how to listen to my body and shut out all of the voices that are telling me what I need to do. And it's so hard because there's so many voices telling us what we need to do. You need to do this. You need to do that. You shouldn't do this. You need this. You need that. So a huge reason why I think a lot of us women have a hard time knowing our own needs is because, and it makes me really sad to talk about this because I just have such a heart of compassion towards it, but because you were not asked what you needed. You were not told that your needs were important or that your needs mattered, and you were not taught to trust your needs. Your needs were never validated. but you were really told what you needed to do and what you needed to not do and who you needed to be. And so we start to conform ourselves into these expectations of meeting externally driven needs instead of learning how to understand our own hearts, our own minds, our own spirits, our own bodies, and trusting the divine wisdom that is etched in every part of us and those needs that are meant to direct us as we navigate our ways through life.
Yeah.
When I work with women for the last 5 years, what I have found is that not one single woman I've worked with had a good understanding of her needs.
Yeah.
I mean, even Claire, she shares she had no idea what her needs were. And there's a workbook. And in the workbook, there's this long list of all these different types of needs. And she was crying. She's like, I didn't even know these were that like I didn't realize this was a need of mine. Now, what happens, do you think, Mariah, if we have needs? Like, for example, you need food. If there's no food available and you need sustenance, and there's a half rotten muffin in the trash. And literally, that's the only food available to you. And you need food. What are you going to do?
I don't wanna eat that muffin. I don't wanna eat the muffin. I don't think I'll eat the muffin. I feel like I would go and get something.
No, that's not an option.
Oh, that's not an option. Well, shoot.
I'll admit it. If I was absolutely ravenous and I had gone weeks or whatever without eating food and I felt like it was my life depended on it, I would reach into that trash. I would eat that moldy muffin. I would just try to take off as much of the mold as possible. People
No,
will
that
eat their
makes
own limbs
sense.
to try to survive.
Yeah, I guess I can't like, when I imagine myself in that situation, I imagine myself as I am now, and I'm like, "I'm not gonna eat that, ew," but, like, if I was
Yeah,
in that
because
situation.
but as you are now, you don't need it. Like you have
Right.
as I am now, I don't need it. I have plenty of fat my body could live off for a while. But if I was skin and bones and my life depended on it, I would need it. The point I'm
Yeah.
trying to make with this crazy example is that we are going to find a way to meet our needs one way or another. And we're either going
Mhm.
about it in a really healthy way or we're going about it in an unhealthy way, or we're trying to dismiss our needs altogether, live
Mhm.
as these needless beings, and that creates a huge dissonance within us, and that, I believe, is one of the reasons why 80% of women 80% of people who have autoimmune diseases are women, is because we are there's like a war within us. There's a part of us that's crying out to, like, live fully and have our needs met, and, like, needs listen, in Living Beautifully, there's a framework. It was inspired by one of my best friends, Michelle, because years ago, Michelle would do a little check in and she'd go, how are you emotionally? How are you spiritually? And how are you physically? She would ask me those three questions, which I thought was brilliant. And then when I started working at the group home that I worked at, I added a fourth component to it. And I would say, how are you ESPM? How are you mentally? And so that's how this whole framework unraveled, was learning that there are multiple parts that make us whole and each part has its own unique, very valid need. God designed need, right? So something as simple as we need oxygen, something as simple as we need food, something as simple as we need hydration, but also something as simple as we need movement or we need stillness, but also something as vital as we need to feel loved. You are wired by God to need to feel loved. And when that need is not met, we will do crazy things to try to meet the need, or we will become hardened and calloused and bitter and angry and resentful and try to convince ourselves that we're fine. I don't need nobody, right? You need to feel seen. It saddens me how many women I work with when I go through the Live Known workbook and all these needs are listed and they have to reflect on who are the people that you have felt seen by. And they go, "I don't know that I've ever felt seen by anybody."
Mm.
How many women are listening to this podcast and you don't feel seen? Maybe you don't even feel like you see your own self. We need to have a sense of purpose. Part of the reason why so many people are bored and so dissatisfied in their mundane lives is because they lack a sense of purpose. We need to have a sense of autonomy where we're our own person. There's so many needs. We could literally do a whole series on needs, and we're probably not going to do that. But during the holidays, when we're not practiced in attuning ourselves to our needs, we can oftentimes what happens is we start partnering with what I call self-neglect because we're so busy trying to meet the needs of everyone around us that we're neglecting our own self. And that's where we can get bitter. That's where we can get resentful. That's where we can start feeling like we're burning out. That's where we can start feeling like we're on the verge of a breakdown. That's where we can start feeling weary. That's where we start feeling disconnected and discontent and dissatisfied in our lives. So, what does it look like, Mariah, for you when you got introduced to the ESPM framework? Share about your experience with that. Like, what were there any challenges initially with that for you? And then what did you start to learn about yourself through that ESPM, learning to check in with yourself, ESPM, emotionally, spiritually, physically, mentally? And then how did it start? How did it unfold? And then where are you at with it now? How does that play out in your lifestyle today?
At first, I would say that there was like a list of things that I could practice, but I found that at first it was a bit performative for me because I was like, "Oh, I have to get this done. I have to check off one thing at least from the list," which it was from a place of performance. And then I started to figure out, based off of like when I checked in with myself and made like my meditation more of a practice, and then mindfulness and actually paying attention to what was going on up here, and then feeling what I needed, whether it be physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It definitely helped though that it was compartmentalized to all different parts of my being, because I feel like I tended to look at or focus on one specific part of my being as if it was my whole. I feel at first I was more focused on my physical.
I think most women are. I think we live in a world that values the physical.
Mhm. Yeah, physical as if that was my only being. And then I would say next on the list would be mental. Mentally, and then emotional, and then last was spiritual. But as the journey went on and I actually started to pay attention to what I felt like I needed, and at this point, I was only really paying attention to what I needed because I hit like certain threshold or certain breaking points where I'm like, "Oh, okay, I'm experiencing a lot of anxiety right now." Or I'm feeling really disconnected from God. I feel like I'm not listening or not hearing, or I don't have peace. Like I'm not experiencing the fruits of the spirit right now. So, the more I started to pay attention to all of those things, the more it kind of shifted to like focusing on each bit all at once. Um, but yeah, it was difficult at first. It was performative based, but then I feel like you did call me out on it in a sense of, because like based off of the answers I would give, you would encourage me to like think more into it, or continue practicing the meditation because it's obviously still needed. And now I feel like it kind of comes naturally, but I know that I still need to take a moment of stillness and check in with myself. Okay, everything seems fine, but did you check in with yourself? That's like talking to somebody and never asking, like, "How are you doing? What's going on in your life?" You're just talking to them and sharing all your stuff, or maybe you guys are just moving along in the motions together. But I need to stop and be like, "How are you really doing? Well, how are you feeling? What are thoughts going on in your mind? How does this relate to like how you're doing?" So just checking in with myself and assessing my needs. And I sometimes I do go back. I do go back to the workbooks and I'm like, "Okay, ESPM," and I like to take specific examples to kinda help and guide me in that, but it starts for me with just checking in and stillness and whatever I need, just do it.
I love what you said. I was like, "Preach." I was trying to be quiet though to not, like, speak over you. But I love what you said about it's like being in a relationship with somebody, but never asking them, "How are you doing?" Dude,
Mhm.
that's like, I'm looking into the camera. I'm looking at our friend. When is the last time in your relationship with yourself, the way that you relate with you, that you asked yourself, "How are you? What do you need?" This is so tender though. I feel like on the other side of what you and I are, the woman on the other side who's not living in this reality, it can bring up heartbreak because I think for me too, like when I realized that I had a really bad relationship with myself, I had partnered with a lot of self rejection, a lot of self neglect, a lot of self betrayal, a lot of self abandonment over the course of my 30 years. And when I started realizing just how unhealthy the way that I related with myself was, the way that I felt about myself, the way that I thought about life and myself, the way that I treated myself, right? It was heartbreaking. There was definitely like a lot of remorse and grief that I experienced in that season of realizing just how badly I had treated myself. And I had this epiphany along the journey, and I love to share this with people, but I had this epiphany where I was like, every single human being in my life, everybody, my parents, my sibling, my nieces, my nephews, my friends, even a future spouse, every single person in my life, every relationship I have with any human being, my spiritual children, my physical children, if I have them someday, these beings are going to come in and out of my life. None of them are with me 24/7. None of them have been with me from the moment that I took my first breath until the moment that I take my last. The only relationship that I have outside of my relationship with Jesus that I am with this other being 24/7 for my entire existence is me. It is really important that I get good about relating with me well. I have to like me. I have to enjoy me. I like to joke that my favorite person to be with is me. I've grown to this point where I'm like, whew, it's easy to be with me now. I like myself. I enjoy myself. I enjoy the atmosphere that I create for myself. I like the way that I think about myself and life and others and circumstances. I like the way that I feel, even when I'm feeling pain. Saturday was a painful day. I spent most of my morning just crying because I just had grief coming up. I just had some stuff that was coming to the surface, and but even like being able to sit with that and feel it and like understand, man, like my soul is going through some grief right now, and I can hold space for that without it being scary or without being coming completely undone by it, and then feeling so much lighter. And like when we learn how to grieve well, grief actually causes us to grow. So on the other side of grief, which feels like death, is actually expansion. It's new life, but we never get to that expanded version of ourselves if we don't learn how to grieve well. So it's so important for all of us to really learn how to relate with ourselves well so that we are good with us. And ultimately, and I've said this before and I'll say it a million times more, I learned how to relate well with myself because of how Jesus relates with me. When I would beat myself up over something and I would go to the Lord about it, and then he would be so tender and kind and patient with me,
Yeah.
I'm like, "Ugh, I can be tender and kind and patient. I don't have to beat myself up to motivate myself to do better. It's actually
Yeah.
your kindness that leads us to repentance." What? So for me, I learned how to relate beautifully with myself because of how beautifully and generously the Lord relates to me through the Holy Spirit. And then again, that ripples into then how I show up for other people, right? Even the simple example of this guy that I'm talking with and feeling the frustration, but not lashing it out on him, not blaming him as the cause and the source of my frustration and retaliating because of it, but recognizing, what's going on in my heart? What is this about? And how can I honor myself, honor the Lord, and honor Him with this little messenger that's coming up through the emotion of irritation? What is this emotion trying to tell me? This is the level of self understanding that we are called to live out of. This is what Jesus calls us into. This is the salvation that Jesus calls us into, because now we're showing up in life as empowered beings and we're able to live holy lives. We're able to love others well because we've received the love from Him, not just in theory, but in actual experience. It's changed how we relate with ourselves, which transforms how we relate with others. And understanding your needs is vital in this process. It's absolutely vital. I love to tell the women that I walk with, because, none of us want to be needy. I don't want to be a needy person. It's like, don't be needy. Be self-sufficient, be independent, carry the burden until you break, but don't be needy. But girl, you know who you can be needy with? You know who loves your neediness? Jesus. You can never be too needy for Jesus. He loves our neediness. He wants us to be dependent on Him. That's what biblical belief is. That Greek word for belief is literally to lean oneself fully upon. So to believe in Jesus is not to believe in Santa Claus like children believe in Santa Claus. Oh yeah, I believe there's this mythical being. I believe that Jesus is real. That's not what the belief that changes our lives is about. Even the Bible says even demons believe. So your belief in that context means zip, zil, nil, niente, nothing. The belief that transforms lives, the belief that brings us into salvation is a full dependence on Christ. It's leaning our lives completely upon Him and then allowing ourselves to be completely transformed by Him. And stillness it's required. In fact, I didn't bring this up earlier, but Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." And that word still in Hebrew can be more accurately translated as letting go. It's not just doing nothing. It's an active posture. Stillness is a very active posture internally, in the spirit realm, in the soul realm. It's that active rest. It's letting go. To be still can mean to loosen your grip. There's things in my life where when I'm still, it finally shows me, man, I've been holding on to this thing really tight. And in my stillness, I'm able to recognize that and then let it go and release it to the Lord. Another translation for that word stillness can be to stop fighting. How many of us are fighting with ourselves, fighting with our spouses, fighting with our in-laws, fighting with our parents, fighting with our children, fighting with the government, fighting with the world? We're just fighting. We're in this constant posture of fighting. We're like living on a battlefield. You can't build a beautiful life on a battlefield. And so stillness is an active posture of rest that opens you up to actually know God. And that verse, God, I'm just going to pull up some notes really quick. Are you with me, Mariah? Did you have anything you wanted to say about that stillness element before we move on to the no?
Yeah, I am just my mind is so visual, so I just picture when you're out in deep waters, if you wanna survive, you have to stop and float. The more that you wiggle around and squirm trying to stay afloat, you're gonna drown. You have to float. Be still and float. That's just what it made me think of. I was like, "Oh, it's so good." So
Mic
good.
drop. Mic drop. The podcast is over. Mariah just said it all in one beautiful visualization. Done. The podcast is done. It's it. This is where we stop. Well, that was so good. That was so when you're drowning in water, you need to stop trying to save your own freaking life and you need to just float. You need to trust that you can float. So good. Be still and know that I am God. Be still. We talked about still. The word know, we've talked about this word before. It's the Hebrew word yada. And in case you've missed past episodes, go back and watch those past episodes because they're so good. But in case you missed them, Yada is the Hebrew word that means intimacy, as in experiential intimacy, as in the type of intimacy that a husband and wife share with each other. So, for example, when you're studying scripture, there's this law and it's called the law of first mentions. And so, anytime you see a word in scripture and it's appearing for the first time, it's basically setting the tone and context for any future time that it's going to be mentioned. Okay. The law of first mentions. If you haven't gotten into the Sacred Pause Bible study yet, jump in on that. It's so good. And we're going to be starting a spiritual formation group in January, and you don't want to miss it. So, and this is for anybody, people who have like super read the Bible a million times or people who have never read the Bible before. It doesn't matter. Just come as you are. And I promise you, you're going to get a fresh perspective on scripture. And it's a very soulful journey. So it's not about the intellect and knowing, it's about the transformative experience as we engage scripture, and we engage it through a very self-reflective posture, and understanding scripture within the context that it was written is so important because so much has been mistranslated through the Western lens. So the Sacred Pause. I'm so proud of this Bible study that I created, and I'm so excited about turning it into a spiritual formation group where we actually get to meet once a week, once a month, and engage with each other and grow with each other and develop ourselves spiritually. But the word yada is first mentioned in the book of Genesis after Adam is kicked out of the garden and Eve goes with him. And it says that Adam knew his wife, Yada, and she conceived a son. Yada is that marital intimacy. And this is the type of knowing that God invites us into with him. In fact, later on in Daniel was a prophet and he prophesies about end times. And he says that many of the elite, many people in the faith are going to fall away from the faith in the end times. But those who know their God, those who yada their God, not know about God, right? You can know about Mariah based off of what you've gleaned about her from this podcast, but you don't know her like I know her unless you're Leslie. Unless you're Leslie. Or her husband, of course, right? They know Mariah way more than I know Mariah, but there's levels of intimacy, and the highest level of intimacy, unfortunately, our culture doesn't exemplify this or create this very well. A lot of people are miserable in their marriages, but the way that God created marriage was that it would be the highest peak of intimacy that two humans could share with one another, create with one another. And this type of knowing of one another is an example of the kind of knowing that Jesus wants to exchange with us, that Jesus wants to create with us. But the only way that we get to that point of knowing is through the stillness. You have to be still. You have to release. You have to let go. You have to stop fighting. You have to stop clinging to your life in order to know God for all of who God is. And I mean, what better time of year than to start practicing this than at the time of year when we're literally celebrating the birth of the Messiah, the birth of Jesus?
Yeah.
This is like, yes, let's all start practicing stillness. Let's all start in that place, identifying, God, I'm gripping to this because I feel like I need it and I don't trust anyone to meet this need. But God, you say you want to meet my need. So I'm going to release this need to you. I'm going to trust, just like I told the Lord on Saturday, I'm like, I need space. I need space to breathe from this guy. And I don't know how to tell him that yet. Like I don't know how to tell him. So either you show me how to tell him, or I need you to put it in his being to just give me a timeout. I just need some space. And God came through because he always comes through. He doesn't always, I'm preaching now. He doesn't always come through the way that we want him to or in the timing that we want him to, but God is faithful. He is faithful. And I have learned in my journey with the Lord that there are measures of God's faithfulness that I cannot experience unless I am willing to give him my faith. His faithfulness demands our faith. And when we lack faith, if you feel like you have to keep your life together and you're gripping at your life and you're like, I can't be still, I can't spend stillness time with the Lord, girl, you are believing the lie that you are in control of your life. And that lie is going to deplete you. That lie is going to destroy you. That lie is going to kill you and it's going to ruin your life. Jesus himself said that if you try to grasp onto your life, you will lose it. But if you lose your life for his sake, only then can you find it. So, yes, all of this is very important. And we're going way deeper than I thought we were. But welcome to Living Beautifully with Tanya, Tanya and Mariya. Um, Okay, that was a lot. That I got on my little preach box there. Anything you wanna add to that? Mic dropper?
No, it was all so good. I guess now how does boundaries relate to that?
I told her to keep me on task, and that's what she's doing. Thank you. Well, when you start practicing stillness and you start to experience yourself in a more honest and vulnerable way, and you start to recognize what those needs are, only then can you truly get to a place where you can set genuine and generous boundaries. And I
Mhm.
think I want to ask you this actually, Mariah, because I think that oftentimes in our culture, boundaries are really misunderstood.
I still feel like I slightly misunderstand it. That's why I'm excited to talk about it today too.
Well, I remember even from our journey with each other, and again, I could only share this with you because I had to figure it out myself, right? And I've witnessed and walked with many other women who have this paradigm shift when it comes to boundaries is we kind of think this is my boundary and we have these ideas of boundaries are how we expect other people to show up or treat us. You're not respecting my boundary, blah, 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 blah. My boundaries are all about how you need to be in order to be in my life. And if you don't meet my boundaries, then you can't be in my life. And that's a very, very immature and toxic understanding of boundaries. But unfortunately, that's the Instagram gospel of boundaries right now. And that also is what perpetuates the whole cancel culture. Oh,
Yeah.
if you don't respect my boundaries, I'm going to cancel you out of my life. And maybe I won't literally cancel you out of my life, but I'm going to keep you at a very far distance.
Yeah, it's protective. I remember thinking that and saying that to you in my journey was like, boundaries are meant to protect. And you're like, no, boundaries are not meant to protect. It's not, that's a survival mechanism to protect yourself and keep that control in your hands.
So, what did you learn? What did you learn about boundaries so far in your journey?
So far, I learned, and I still, that's why I say I still feel like I'm not 100% understanding of it. The boundaries are about this is where I get a little fuzzy. So boundaries are about me. Now I'm like guarding my heart, but not guarding, right? Like I'm still not 100% sure.
I think I think sometimes people it's a language issue. Like guard your heart above all else is such a falsely interpreted scripture because a
Yeah.
lot of people hear guard your heart and they think I have to protect my heart.
Yeah, that's where I get mixed up too. Mhm.
But a more accurate Hebrew translation of guarding your heart is keep watch over your heart, which
Yeah.
you might not have context for because we're not living in the medieval period with watchman towers, right? But the watchman was always on the lookout. It was making sure everything was as it ought to be. It was they stood on the watchman towers and they would look out to see if any potential threats were coming in, but they were also watching what was going on within and making sure that everything was functioning as it should. So even when we hear this verse, guard your heart above all else, we think I have to protect my heart from the world outside of me. And actually, that's only one very small part of what guarding your heart practically looks like.
Mhm.
Practically, what guarding your heart looks like is learning how to cultivate your emotional language, understanding the emotional landscape of your heart, understanding your woundings, understanding your needings, understanding your longings, understanding what's going on in your heart and keeping watch over it so that it's not hardening, it's not callousing, it's not walling up, but it's continuing to be tenderized before the Lord. It's continuing to be open. We're called to be open-hearted people, and a lot of people are closing their hearts in the name of guarding their hearts or
Mhm.
putting walls up and calling it boundaries. So there's a lot of misunderstanding around this, and it causes for really broken relationships and painful relationships. But boundaries have way more to do with how you take care of you than what you expect from others.
Yeah. No, yeah, that makes sense for sure.
So good. And you know what? When you're guarding your heart really well, this is an example that I can share with you. Something that happened with my mom. Mom, we love you. This is not a criticism at all. It's just a beautiful example. And my mom and I navigated through it beautifully. My mom and I have like come such a long way with how we relate with one another. I'm so thankful. But I was so excited to tell her, like, I signed up for a dating app, and I thought for sure she was gonna be so excited for me and proud of me, and I swear to you, when I told her, I saw. Maybe this is what I saw, right? Because sometimes what we perceive is not reality, but I saw my mom flinch. She was just like, like, it was painful for her to hear me tell her that. And she was just kinda like, "Okay, well, we'll see how that goes." And it was just like this hesitant, flinchy, painful reaction, and I was expecting warmth and excitement and pride, right? So when I perceived that from her, it pinged my heart. I was just like, "Oof." And then the little girl in me was like, "She doesn't believe I can do this," right? My mom doesn't believe in me. And then all the stories that I start telling myself about why my mom doesn't believe in me. But literally within, I would say, 5 minutes, I was, because I'm watching my heart. I'm keeping watch over my heart. I'm observing my thoughts. I'm in tune with the sensations in my body. So really quickly, I sensed that I had been triggered and I let it go. And I was like, you know what? I'm proud of myself. The next day, I was having dinner with my parents because I try to do dinner with my mom and dad once a week. And I told her, I was like, you know what? And I wasn't angry. I wasn't accusatory. I didn't come at her. I wasn't trying to defend anything. I just shared with her because this is how intimacy is created. Hey, this is what I perceived. This is what I experienced. This is how I took it. And she goes, "What? I didn't notice that I flinched. I didn't flinch." And I'm like, "Mom, sometimes you flinch, because sometimes other people see you better than you see yourself too." I'm like, "No, Mom, you definitely flinched." And she's like, "No." And then she was able to share with me how she internalized what I was telling her. And she basically said, because, back in 2011, I think it was, how I met my first husband was through a dating website. And so it brought some of that up for her, some of that like fear of like, oh no, like we've done this before. And that was just her initial response. Now she's super excited about it and she wants to hear all the juicy details. But initially, it was kind of like this, oh, this is familiar and it was painful in the past. And so she needed time to process it through. And then we needed to come together and have an open, honest, understanding conversation with each other. But none of that could have happened if I just made my assumptions and judgments. My mom's not supportive. I can't trust my mom. She's not a safe person. And then distanced myself from her.
Mm.
Right? So I had to guard my heart and the boundaries. So where do the boundaries come into play there? I didn't have any boundaries with my mom, but I had plenty boundaries with myself. I didn't let myself make assumptions.
Mm.
I didn't jump to conclusions. I
Yeah.
chose not to mind read. I chose to feel the pain and disappointment of feeling like my mom possibly didn't believe in me. And then I chose to have an honest conversation with her. Those were all boundaries at play. Boundaries are how I manage me.
That's so good. I love how you made the difference between having a boundary with somebody else and having a boundary with yourself, even though it all comes back to yourself. Because I don't think that's ever talked about is how we have boundaries for ourselves. Like you said, you didn't allow yourself to do XYZ. I love that.
So the holidays, we want to be like, I have boundaries. Like, this person can't come over unless X, Y, and Z. Listen, I'm not saying open your life up to highly destructive people. But the fact of the matter is our society is labeling people as highly toxic and destructive, and they're literally just human. Our society is labeling people as narcissistic, and they're literally just selfish. And guess what? So are you, and so am I. We're humans. We all have moments where our selfishness overrides. And that's all the more reason for us to do this work, the inner work of learning how to live the abundant life, learning how to be kingdom dwellers and abiders and advancers of, we're advancing the way of God in this world that we live in. But boundaries are really important, but the boundaries are, how am I going to show up at my best? That's what it all comes down to. What do I need to show up at my best? So boundaries for me are, I keep watch over how I speak. I don't like to speak ill of someone. And if I do, if I'm really hurt and I catch myself speaking ill of someone, I have to confess and repent it, because that's a boundary that I have for myself. Out of the mouth, we speak blessing or curse, life or death. I don't want to be a curse speaker. I don't want to be a death speaker. That's a boundary that I have for myself, right? Cognitive distortions. I have boundaries. I do not let myself ruminate on all or nothing thinking. Doesn't mean that all or nothing thinking doesn't pop up from time to time. It just means that when I catch it, I don't partner with it. I don't come into agreement with it. I don't allow myself to ruminate on it. That's a boundary that I have for myself. A boundary that I have for myself is, I'm not willing to put more effort into a relationship than somebody is willing to match. But here we go. Here's where the generous boundaries come in. I have a best friend. We've been friends since we were 19 years old, and she is in a stretched thin season. I called her after like months. We've been barely communicating. And mind you, I'm going to be honest, I've been feeling hurt. I've been feeling like she's not being a good friend. And she's not being a good friend because she doesn't have the capacity or capability to be a good friend right now. But that doesn't mean that she's not a good friend, right? So I sent out proof of life, and she responded to proof of life text. Hey, are you alive? Proof of life. I need proof of life. And we talked on the phone for like 20 minutes last week, and I got to hear from her. She's drowning. She's literally feels like she's drowning in her life. And so then within that, my heart grew in so much more compassion for her. So then I was able to manage my expectations of her in this season, because I'm like, you know what? She's genuinely doing her best. She's feeling like she's failing in so many areas. As a good friend to this good friend that I have so much history with, the last thing I want to do is make her feel like she's failing as a friend right now on top of everything else. So I'm choosing to show up with a lot of grace and compassion and understanding, because this is not how she is consistently in our friendship. Now, there's other people in my life where they consistently show up half-hearted, and they're just takers and they're just users, and I'll take their call. I'll be available, but I don't go out of my way for them, because some people are just ask holes. They ask and they ask and they ask, and they have all these holes in their bucket. And no matter how much you give them, it's never enough, because they can't actually appreciate any of it. So I'm not going to do more for you than you're willing to do for yourself. I'm not going to put more effort in the relationship than you're willing to put in. But that doesn't mean that it's a hard stop, because there's context, right? So we want to be women who have generous boundaries with people. We want to love with whole hearts. And I think anytime it comes to recognizing our needs and our boundaries, it has to align with what is going to help me keep showing up with an open heart. And that doesn't mean that we push out all of the difficult people,
Yeah.
because that's not what Jesus did. So if the only way for you to keep an open heart towards people is to push out and shut out and cancel out all the difficult people, then my challenge for you is You need to develop the skills to be able to keep an open heart even with difficult people. You need to develop the capabilities that will allow your capacity to expand, because living beautifully is living an expansive life. It's living a generous life. It's living a gracious life. And if we don't have the skill set developed to be able to show up authentically, not performatively in that way, then we just have to learn.
Yeah. It's never too late.
It's never too late until we die. Then it's too late.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if we're listening to this podcast, we're not dead yet, so it's never too late.
There you go.
Okay, any final thought, any other thoughts on boundaries? Um, what do you think some examples of boundaries that we could set during the holidays might look like?
Ooh, okay. Thinking first. How do I want to show up?
Good
Say
question.
this is an example if you have a really dysfunctional family, but you're going to go spend the holidays with them. How do I want to show up knowing that these are possibilities, not fortune telling, but knowing that there are some possibilities of how you might or what space you're going to walk into. How do I want to show up?
What I'm hearing you
Yeah.
say is accepting that historically there's dysfunction
Hmm.
that can be triggering. Instead of doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, it's getting to the point of acceptance. This is the way
Hmm.
things are right now. And how do I want to choose to show up instead of just reactively show up?
Yes.
Okay. So, what boundaries would you set?
I'm gonna choose to get curious instead of defensive. Even if I feel offended, I'm feeling attacked, I'm gonna choose to get curious and ask, "What do you mean by that?" Instead of taking face value, even though it might be so, just getting curious of where that even came up for the person. Like making the goal of I'm gonna choose to connect the best that I can with people, even if I don't agree or even
Mhm.
if it hurts me a little bit from the start, I'm gonna choose connection, and I'm gonna keep my curiosity and heart open.
That's good.
Yeah.
Good. So, choosing to figure out to practice connecting heart to heart, even if you don't see eye to eye. Because there's a lot of that too in families right now where our society is so polarized. And so there's even a lot of polarization in families. And that can create a lot of tension, right? But how can we connect heart to heart? How can we be kind? How can we be honoring? How can we be curious? How can we be understanding and respectful? How can we try to focus on what we do share in common instead of the things that divide us?
Yeah.
So good. That's great advice. I think it's also keeping in mind not only what will make this a great holiday season for everybody else, but what will help you have a great holiday season. I remember there was a year where every year we would make these, I call them death by potatoes, but it's just this potato dish that I love and I could eat so much of it that I die. It's so good. I think it's actually called funeral potatoes, but and they weren't gonna make the funeral potatoes. We no funeral potatoes because there was gonna be mashed potatoes or whatever, and I was like, "But I really love I love these death by potatoes." So I said, "I'm gonna bring them," and I got backlash, like, "No, we don't need that, that's too many potatoes," and I said, "That's fine. If people don't wanna eat them, they don't have to eat them." But I really want the funeral potatoes. I'm not gonna expect anybody else to make those for me. I'm the one that wants them, but I'm gonna make them and I'm gonna bring them and that was it. So if something is important to you, don't neglect yourself in it. Don't expect other people to meet that need, right?
Mm.
Try not to take things personally, but also honor your own needs and honor your own desires and what will make this holiday time, this holiday season special and pleasurable for you as well. There's traditions that you don't want to be, neglected, then you do it and you do it for nobody else other than you. And if people appreciate it, great, but you're not doing it for the appreciation of others. You're doing it for yourself. But as far as boundaries go, I think just managing if you're going to do something because you want to do it, don't expect other people to want to do it also. And then if they don't want to do it, don't get offended. Don't take it personally. Just do it. That's what you want to do.
Yeah.
Other than boundaries, I think too, Mariah hit the nail on the head with this. The number one question is, how do I want to show up? How do I want to show up? And then what do I need to manage within myself? My thoughts, my emotions, my energy, my time, my resources, my yeses, my nos. Because the other thing with boundaries that I love to really anchor myself in with is every yes is a no. You can't say yes to everything. Every time I give my yes to something, I'm simultaneously giving my no to something else. So count the
Yeah.
cost of your yes. If saying yes to all these people means saying no to your family, or if saying yes to all these external expectations means saying no to showing up peaceful and present with your family, then maybe you need to say no to some of those people so that you can say yes to your family. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, if saying yes to keeping up with the status and buying all the presents means that you're going to go into debt over the holidays and you're going to feel resentful and bitter and you're going to start out a new year in the red, well, then maybe you got to work through some of that. Maybe in your stillness, you have to let go of some of the pressures you're putting upon yourself to show up a certain way that's just not feasible for you to do in this season and come to peace. I've had to do that. I mean, there have been seasons where I've been in such poverty and I'm like, I can't show up financially as generous as I typically like to be. And you know what's so beautiful though, my friend, is lack can often be the gateway to creativity.
Yeah.
So when I can't afford to go out and buy all the things, instead of being all or nothing about it and being like, no one's going to get anything from me this year, I'm like, okay, how can I be really resourceful with what I do have? How can I be creative this year? How can I still show up and still be generous and still be thoughtful, but all of it within my means? Right.
Right.
So now I'm not miserable because I can't give people gifts, but I'm also not miserable because I'm giving people gifts I can't afford. I actually have so much more joy because I'm honoring my boundaries, my financial resource limitations, and I'm actually using this gift that God has given every single one of us because we were all created in his image and likeness. We are all creative in some way. God is a creator. We are all creators. Some of us just have more practice engaging that part of ourselves than others. Consumption is the enemy of creation.
Mm.
Side note. So get creative, right? So this is how you start thinking about boundaries. It's not she better not look at me this way, she better not bring this up, she better not do this, he better not do that. It's how do I manage myself so that I can show up as the most generous, gracious, expansive, loving person that I can be this year for others. So that's it. That's episode 1 of a 4-part series.
Yay.
This was so fun, Mariah. So next episode 2, Claire is going to be joining us. You guys are going to absolutely fall in love with Claire. Claire is quickly becoming a friend of the podcast. I would expect to see her much more frequently in the new year. And don't worry, we don't have any plans of Bethany going anywhere. I know you guys love Bethany. I love Bethany. Mariah loves Bethany. The podcast wouldn't be what it is without Bethany. But, thankfully, we have a friend who's willing to step in on Bethany's behalf while Bethany's dealing with some family stuff. So, yeah, keep checking in every week because we are committed to helping you not just get through the holidays, but really enjoy the holidays this year. And if you haven't already noticed, a lot of the things we're talking about in every single episode are going to be applicable to life in general. So it's not just about helping you enjoy the holidays and be present through the holidays and feel pleasure during the holidays and be really purposeful during the holidays, but in life in general as well. So,
Yeah.
any final thoughts you want to say, my friend, before we part ways for the week?
No, not right now, but happy holidays, happy living, happy beautifully living to you.
Yeah. Yep. Happy first week of December, and we'll see you here next week. Ciao for now.